Hello and welcome to the Joel Greene podcast. Yes, I'm going to be doing a podcast. I have no idea how long it's going to be. It could be an hour long, could be an hour and a half, or it could be half an hour, 15 minutes. But I definitely want to be starting to do a podcast and just talk about games, movies, and other stuff in general. So the first episode I'm going to be doing is about E3 2017 and why it was a bit disappointing in my eyes. Now, of course, not all of it was disappointing. Of course, we did get a lot of good stuff, but, to me there was, and to me and a lot of other people, it seemed like the E3 this year wasn't as bombastic as it was. So to get started, I'm going to be talking about each one of the press conferences, what I liked and what I didn't like. So the first press conference was EA. This time, EA's press conference actually wasn't, terrible. They didn't show up with mobile games and have Pele on the stage. So to me, they definitely got a lot of stuff right and a lot of stuff fixed this time around for EA's press conference. It was actually one of the better press conferences in terms of just, we're going through each one of the games. So what I definitely liked about EA's press conference is A Way Out. That game looks very interesting. A co-op only prison escape game. Definitely going to be pretty interesting. However, of course it is just co-op only. That to me definitely is a little bit annoying. Obviously, just finding someone to play with via couch co-op or online. I think they said you can do it online. But to me, it's just a bit disappointing that it is that way. Secondly, Battlefield 1 in the Name of the Tsar. To me, this was a bit of a letdown in terms of what we got to see. Of course, we did get the trailer, but I wanted at least, a little bit more gameplay in terms of what we're going to be, seeing in the game. But to me, I still really can't complain about it at all because, we did get more Battlefield 1 information. I was a little bit disappointed again with Name of the Tsar not getting an official release date. It's still up in the air when that thing is releasing. And the same thing with Nouvelle Nights. When is that map going to be coming out? They were very vague about Battlefield 1 despite how well it's been doing. So to me, that was overall a bit of a disappointment. But we did get to see more Battlefield 1, so I'm really excited about that. And then Star Wars Battlefront, of course, did take up the majority of this press conference. And I was a little bit disappointed in Star Wars Battlefront as well. To me, Star Wars Battlefront, what they showed off initially with the trailer and they had their voice actors come up, that to me was awesome, them showing the, planned trailer. And then I was like, alright, now we're going to get to see the 30-minute multiplayer reveal of Star Wars Battlefront. Then they had shoutcasters and YouTube personalities up there. So to me, that was something that I didn't want. I didn't want to, have recordings of, oh, that was awesome, look at that. I just wanted to see raw gameplay of people playing or have developers commentating over it because obviously they know the game the best. Having YouTube personalities up there and shoutcasters up there was something I wasn't looking forward to and was something that definitely drew my attention away from it. Once I saw that they had people over it, I instantly was, I didn't want to watch it anymore. I just wanted to record videos and such. So that's what I did while, the biggest thing to me was oh yeah, Star Wars Battlefront feed gameplay, I was recording videos during that instead of actually watching it and being enthralled in it, or, at least, semi-watching. I was recording videos. So, to me, Star Wars Battlefront, I'm definitely going to be looking forward to all the stuff coming after release, all the different YouTubers that I personally enjoy, recording over it, or just showing us gameplay, or getting raw gameplay of it, because, that's what I wanted to see. But in terms of, what I did see, what I was watching afterwards, to me, Star Wars Battlefront 2 definitely seems to be fixing a lot of stuff they did in the first game in terms of just depth, character customization, classes, maps, modes, campaign. They said about has 3 times more content as in the first game. Now, I'm wondering if that's post DLC content for the first game, or if that's base game for Star Wars Battlefront. Because to me, adding 3 times more content with all the DLCs from the first Battlefront game, that's a lot of content. And who knows what they're saying that is in terms of, 3 times more content. Of course, that's a loaded word, of course. But yeah, I like what I saw from Star Wars Battlefront. I thought it was very good. The gunplay seemed very fun. And it definitely seemed to be more of Star Wars Battlefront, which is definitely what I wanted to see. Moving on to Xbox. Obviously, the Xbox One X was, officially revealed and given a price. $499 is the price for Xbox One X. To me, that seems a bit, expensive. That they should have. I don't know why it's not $400. Obviously, the PS4 Pro is $400. The Xbox One X is $500. We're in another predicament of Xbox One PS4 official launch a couple of years ago. So they're obviously in a slump. $500 is a lot of money, of course, for the beefy console. And if I can play all the games that they have on, my Xbox One already, why get an Xbox One X? Very much expecting a price drop to happen for that very, very quickly, whether it's in between now and selling or afterwards, when I don't think it's going to sell very well. But to me, $500 is definitely a bit expensive. And I guess, you are getting your money's worth, but to me, it definitely seems a bit expensive, and that's what everyone seems like it as well, that it's a bit expensive and that they should not have priced it that much. They should have priced it competitively with the PlayStation 4 Pro, and then they could have been like, for the same amount of money, you can get, triple the power, triple the teraflops, or X, Y, and Z. But overall, Xbox One X, I like the name of it. I like the specs of it. I like how, true 4K is coming to all that stuff. But again, a $500 console, in order to experience the 4K, you need a 4K TV, and you're dropping a lot of money there. So that to me is just a bit disappointing. They did say with if you don't have a 4K TV, they have something called like super processing, or like micro, something about, a big big word that was for 1080p TVs, how it condenses down everything to make it look better than ever on a 1080p screen. So to me that was pretty cool and interesting to look at. But to me, $500 is definitely a bit overpriced. Moving on to the games for Xbox, they revealed Forza 7 and showed off a new Porsche, which was a little weird. Because obviously, showing off a brand new hypercar at a video game press conference is not what people are looking for. However, it was cool, but, like I said, just not what we're looking for here at E3. But Forza 7, Forza series is usually very good. Definitely something in terms of me looking forward to getting a new Forza game. The last Forza I got was Forza 4. Definitely do not have a racing game on my Xbox, and I do enjoy the Forza franchise as a whole. Moving on to Assassin's Creed Origins. Assassin's Creed Origins definitely looks to be awesome. What they showed off in true 4K-ness, it definitely seems to be pretty awesome in terms of just the location and how big and expansive it's going to be. Different color palette as well. Like I said, in terms of other Assassin's Creed games, we're used to, cities, or, not so much desert landscapes, or, it's just a completely different location. I'm very excited to be playing that. Assassin's Creed Origins, definitely seems to be I haven't seen a whole lot of innovation yet, but in terms of wildlife, we're gonna be seeing, there's hippos, there's camels, there's crocodiles, so there's a whole lot, and there's giant snakes as well. So there's a whole lot of new stuff in the game that I'm definitely very excited for, in terms of this looks new, this is new and fresh. Definitely seems to be, another Assassin's Creed game in terms of the gameplay that they showed off. That was very much to be expected. It's an Assassin's Creed game. Here's, using your eagle vision and finding the guy you need to take out and taking him out. In terms of new gameplay, we got to see there was the eagle flying over everyone to get a viewpoint. This definitely seems to be, a natural progression of stuff, taken from other games. Obviously, Far Cry Primal, you could use your owl. In this game, you can use your eagle. Who knows if the eagle can take out enemies for you? I'm presuming that's what it's going to be. But the game looks gorgeous. It looks huge. It looks like a lot of fun. They did show off some Chariot gameplay at Ubisoft's E3 press conference, but to me, the game looks awesome, and it's definitely going to be a buy from me when the game comes out. Then they showed off Metro Exodus, which seems to be pretty awesome. I've only played Metro 2033. I have Last Light, but I have not gotten around to playing it. But after seeing that, and after being like, oh yeah, the Metro franchise is a thing, I'm definitely going to be trying to get around to Metro Last Light. But in terms of Exodus, I thought it was interesting that they go above ground and everything's green. There's life on Earth again from, the nuclear fallout. And then they showed off, the giant bear and the wolves and stuff. So to me, bears had a big presence at E3. There was the bear in Days Gone, and then the bear in Metro. But to me, the bear in Metro seems to be a lot more menacing, as in terms of the bears in Days Gone, because they actually sort of fought it in the gameplay. But in terms of Metro as a whole, I thought the demo was really good, pretty scripted, of course. and it just seemed to be not a little null in action, but it seemed to be a little void of action. Of course, they want to show off, oh, here's above ground gameplay. Look at all the details we have in this, and then they showed off the train, which seemed to be pretty awesome. So who knows if we're going to be going outside of Russia in this, but to me, Metro Exodus was a good showing. Okay, moving on to other stuff during Xbox's E3 press conference. They showed off a game called The Last Night. Game looks awesome, want to see gameplay. Supposedly it was a winner of a game jam, a 6-day game jam, and you can play the original version of that online. I'm definitely probably going to be checking that out, see what it's like, but the game looks gorgeous, want to see gameplay, definitely has my attention. Now, Ori and the Will of the Wisps. That game looks gorgeous as always. You know, the Ori games, Ori and the Blind Forest, definitely gorgeous. Have not played it, definitely going to get around to buying the game and playing it because of how much I wanted to play it when they first revealed it, and when I didn't have an Xbox One, I definitely wanted to play it, but now I can, obviously, because I have an Xbox One and such. So to me, definitely seeing another Ori game was like, oh yeah, that game was gorgeous, it reviewed well, it looked awesome, Metroidvania style game. Gameplay can be expected, who knows when. Of course, we know what it's going to look like. It's going to be a Metroidvania game, but to me, the Ori games are about the ambience and, you know, gorgeousness of the backgrounds and of the graphics and the art style of the game. So to me, just showing off that trailer definitely was like, oh yeah, Ori's a thing. It looks gorgeous. It's going to be more of Ori. In terms of other games that they showed, there was a lot of, you know, just smaller games that they showed off in sizzle reels that seemed to be pretty interesting. They said that they have 42 games to show off today, and 22 of them are console exclusives. They obviously did not show off all 42 games in the amount of time that, you know, other games got to be shown off, but they'd show off just sizzle reel games. Some of them seem to be pretty interesting. Of course, you know, a lot of them are going to be, you know, B-tier games, in my opinion. They're not all going to be massive AAA awesome games, but they all do look interesting. One thing that I noted that was pretty interesting is that they didn't show off We Happy Few. This was a game last year that they definitely was like, oh, this game is going to be a big deal. They showed off the big gameplay demo, and this game didn't even have a presence at this year's E3. I do own We Happy Few. I was a bit disappointed with the game overall. I'm waiting for the full game to be released before I get back into it, but to me, the game was a bit of a disappointment of what I played. But I was a little bit shocked to see that they didn't have anything to show here at E3. Moving on to Shadow of War. Shadow of War, they showed off a new gameplay demo. Definitely a very brief demo. There was barely any combat in this. It basically was Bruise taking down a smaller orc and then showing off the different varieties of orcs that they had in the game. And, you know, different trolls they have in the game. But to me, I'm just waiting for the gameplay of Shadow of War that isn't Fortress taking over gameplay. I want to see what the game's going to be like when we're not taking over fortresses. You know, what's the moment-to-moment gameplay going to be like in terms of, you know, here's a band of orcs, take them out, show off some new gameplay elements, and then, oh, here's a Grog, take out the Grog, or here's some Caragors, take out the Caragors. Just stuff that I want to see that isn't Fortress gameplay per se. Moving on to Anthem. Anthem was the last game that they showed off. Definitely very interesting game. Definitely seems to have a lot of Destiny vibes in terms of, you know, here's a wall that protects us, and, you know, you are the person who goes outside of it, the freelancer in terms of this game, you know, Guardians and Destiny. But to me, it definitely seems to be a gorgeous game. Definitely reminded me a lot of Avatar in terms of the giant beasts we're seeing, and then, like, the landscape of the dense forest and, like, giant structures jutting out. So to me, definitely seemed to be getting a lot of, you know, Pandora-ish vibes from Avatar, but in terms of the actual gameplay, it looked awesome. It looks like your mech suit is going to be able to show off a lot of different varieties. They said that you can have multiple mech suits, and, you know, there's different variants of it. You know, there's the Javelin one, it's more agile. There's the Ranger one, which is a mixture between, you know, the big hulking one, and then there was, like, mixture between the big hulking one and the small agile one. So that's just your standard mech suit, and then there was the big hulking one that they showed off. So definitely a good variety of mech suits that we're going to be playing with here. Some things I thought was awesome during this trailer was it immediately went into gameplay in terms of let's go do a mission. They're on the wall. They jump off the wall. And now they're jetpacking to their location. That was awesome. And then once they did that, I was like, wow, this is a really big, open, and expansive world that they're showing off here. So to me, obviously, it was like, wow, this game is huge. It looks awesome. You can jetpack around. Here comes, a herd of giant beasts roaming around. And then they got to see the giant beasts, fighting other animals. And they were like, let's save this for another day. Flew off. And then immediately engaged in combat with other people. Like I said, the game looks to be heavily influenced by Destiny. It's a shared world shooter and such. They're definitely going for that audience in terms of who they want playing the game. To me, it doesn't seem like a game I'm going to be getting into unless the gameplay is something spectacular. What they showed off was very brief and not expansive. I want to see a full raid mission style, but to me, game looks beautiful, looks gorgeous, looks interesting. Gameplay so far looks good. BioWare, like I said, is on edge. This game has to be good, or else BioWare's reputation is going to be on the line. In terms of Mass Effect Andromeda not being as what it was, I was surprised not to see new Mass Effect Andromeda DLC also anywhere at E3, but BioWare definitely is not, in terms of when you say a BioWare game, it's not like instant quality. It's now, are we going to get, a good BioWare game, or are we going to get the Mass Effect Andromeda BioWare game? But to me, Xbox's press conference was very good. Good in terms of just games, showing off all 42 games, and announcing the Xbox One X. I thought that was a very good press conference in terms of just pacing and in presentation as well. Some things I didn't like about Xbox's One press conference is they showed off a game called Super Lucky's Tale, which to me looked like a kid's game. And they showed off a couple other games that definitely weren't in terms of the hardcore video game audience. So to me, giving a game like Super Lucky's Tale even 2 minutes on stage instead of the 30 second scissor reel it should have gotten put into was a little weird. Obviously Xbox has a lot of stuff they could have shown off, but there was no big wow factor in terms of the entire press conference. But I'll be talking about all the stuff later about what I didn't like. Moving on to Bethesda Land. I was very shocked at Bethesda's short press conference, 40 minutes long. Bethesda Land was a perfect way to do a press conference, going from over here at Bethesda Land, we have Skyrim. Over here at Bethesda Land, we have Wolfenstein. Over here, we have some stuff under construction showing off the new games. I thought that was a great way to present stuff in terms of what they had to show. Now, if they do that next year when they're showing off more games, obviously, a new Elder Scrolls game is going to be very much presumed to be shown off there. But in terms of what they had, basically no new games other than Wolfenstein: The Evil Within 2 and Dishonored 2 DLC, which is supposedly its own standalone game, which is pretty interesting, but I have no confirmation that's what the game is. I saw it, in its own box cover somewhere online, but to me the game looks interesting, and I'm wondering if it's a standalone or just a DLC, because it doesn't say Dishonored 2 DLC anywhere on it at all. But moving back to how they did the press conference. So Bethesda Land was a great way to show off their games by showing off old stuff. There wasn't a whole lot of new stuff they were showing off. They showed off a lot of, VR stuff, in terms of Doom VR and Fallout 4 VR, and then they showed off Skyrim for the Switch and such. So they weren't showing off a whole lot of just brand new games, but they were showing off a lot of games that, had been around for, 6 years and such. But to me, I thought it was a good way to do a press conference, minimum people on stage. Pete Hines was the only person up there. And that was a bit disappointing, of course. I do like when they show off, the extended gameplay demos, but this year they just didn't have anything to show for that, which, again, was a bit disappointing. They didn't have any extended gameplay demo, which I guess is why they decided to do Bethesda Land this time around, where it was, let's do this, and let's not show off any of our big guns yet. Like I said, it was... like the theme of this podcast episode is disappointment within E3. Like I said, I'll be talking about that after I talk about all the press conferences. But to me, Bethesda press conference, they really shouldn't have been at E3 this year, showing off what they showed off. they definitely need to put Skyrim in the dirt and be like, Skyrim was a game we released in 2011, and they're still dragging along in terms of just everywhere. Skyrim is definitely one of their biggest franchises. I mean, definitely one of their biggest games. Elder Scrolls, of course, is a long, beloved franchise. But to me, they definitely need to move on to Elder Scrolls 6 and begin to talk about that. Wolfenstein looked great. I thought Wolfenstein, the New Colossus was a great trailer. Definitely very interesting choice to show off, the TV elements of it, where it was like, the Nazis taking over America and the different propaganda they've influenced into that. But I thought Wolfenstein, in terms of the gameplay we saw, definitely more Wolfenstein, definitely more, just insanity of killing Nazis. A game I'm looking forward to playing. But nonetheless, I wanted more extended gameplay demos of that. Like I said, Dishonored 2's DLC, it could be standalone, could be not. No official gameplay, that was just a CG trailer. Looks interesting, can't wait to play it. The name is also very enticing, how it's like Death to the Outsider and such. The Outsider, of course, is a big person in the Dishonored game, and if he dies, what's going to happen to that? But who knows? Moving on to Bethesda VR, looks interesting, looks like a good VR game. They showed off Fallout 4 in VR and Doom VR. Both of those games, I think, will do good in VR. Like I said in my previous videos, Doom VR seems to be jumping around in terms of, like, you move to points in the map instead of free moving to translate the fast, fluid gameplay of Doom, and then translating that to VR. So I think both those games are gonna have a good translation with VR. Of course, they're not going to be a one-to-one replication of the games in VR. Of course, some things we automatically noticed was, graphics toned down a little bit janky in terms of stuff. But to me, Doom VR, Doom fucking VR, definitely seems to be, like I said, a spawn point where you move point to point to get the fast, fluid gameplay. But to me, glory kills in VR are going to be awesome. In terms of Fallout 4 VR, some things that I'm definitely concerned about is bugs. Of course, Fallout games are riddled with bugs, so I'm waiting to see if that game will be a full, playable, good, polished game. But who knows? But I think both of those games are definitely a good push for VR, in terms of, just size and scope, because obviously most VR games are not very big, and getting Fallout 4 completely in VR definitely will be interesting. So that concludes Bethesda. Moving on to Ubisoft. Ubisoft, of course, Ubisoft I thought had a great E3 press conference, besides the fact they had no massive game to show for, besides Beyond Good and Evil 2, but I'll be talking about that later. So, Ubisoft showed off Raging Rabbids and Mario to begin with. I thought that was a great way to introduce it. Here's something new and fresh that we're doing, and of course, it's very interesting to see a non-Nintendo, developer making a Mario game. I can't wait to see how that turns out to be. It is Switch exclusive, which I'm a bit disappointed about, but completely understanding as well. But, but to me, having a Raging Rabbids game, XCOM style combat definitely seems to be pretty interesting overall. But to me, if I don't want to switch, I don't really care. But the game did look interesting and did look to be having interesting comedic moments. And having Shigeru Miyamoto on stage was definitely a unexpected thing to be happening. Moving on from that, they showed off more Assassin's Creed. I've already talked about that. Looks great. Looks interesting. Looks gorgeous and such. And then they moved to Skull and Bones after that. Skull and Bones definitely looks to be very interesting. Of course it is Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag naval combat taken to the upgraded degree. They showed off a lot more elements of what the pirate combat is going to be like to differentiate itself from Assassin's Creed Black Flag. The game looked interesting. The CG trailer was awesome. I can't wait to see more of what this game's going to be like. Can we go off ship? Or are we just the ship? Because they did show boarding gameplay, but then it cut immediately back to the ship. So I'm wondering if it's just, do you customize your ship and that's it? Or do we actually have a pirate who we are, and that's the story of we're a pirate blank, or we're this pirate, or we're, Captain Kenway again, or something. But to me, the gameplay looked awesome. The 5v5 definitely seems to be pretty interesting. Overall, I can't wait to, get back on the high seas and the Indian Ocean playing that. Some things that definitely, definitely made it not Assassin's Creed is definitely at the end of the reveal, they showed off the Kraken. I hope that that's community, or that's just stuff you encounter while you're sailing. The Kraken is taking over your ship and you have to fight the Kraken. I hope there's also other sea monsters, like a Loch Ness style monster. I hope that they go full in with, Pirate's Tales for this game. Definitely, adding something like the Kraken is definitely going to be, it's not Assassin's Creed. That's what I think that's what they were trying to say, is that we're not Assassin's Creed in this game. We're going to have the Kraken, we're going to have a lot more ship stuff happening, a lot more stuff you can do on your pirate ship, as opposed to in the other Assassin's Creed games where it was just broadside cannons, and then you had your puckle gun or your broadside guns and such. So there's definitely a lot of stuff to be taken away from this that, they're saying it isn't Assassin's Creed, but at the same time, seeing this, I can't get out of my head that this isn't Assassin's Creed, this isn't Black Flag. And then just the fact that they reused assets in terms of, just a lot of the gameplay and such, and then they're reusing, the pirate shanties that they're singing in the game. To me, it's just I want to see this game not be Assassin's Creed, and to me it still is, an extension of Assassin's Creed, but it isn't at the same time, but I want to see how they're going to be making this game stand alone. And then they showed off a lot of South Park. South Park: The Fractured But Whole definitely is going to be a good game, a comedic game. South Park: Stick of Truth. I haven't played it, but that game was obviously reviewed very good and was people love it. And Fractured But Whole definitely seems to be taking that formula, mixing up a bit, different combat style. But there's not really much to be said about South Park. It's going to be funny. It's going to be a bit risque in terms of gameplay and the story. I love South Park. I think it's a great TV show. South Park game, obviously very hilarious. But what I'm more excited about is actually South Park Phone Destroyer, because that's a mobile game that I can be playing wherever I am. It seems to be pretty interesting. Obviously, it's probably going to be heavily microtransaction focused, which is fun. And, I hope that they poke fun at that while you're playing the game, where it's come on, pay for the game if you want to be good. But to me, South Park Phone Destroyer definitely is something I'm a little bit more interested in, because I can play it wherever I want, and it's a South Park game on the go. How am I going to be able to play that game out loud in public, at a cafe playing South Park? Obviously how vulgar it is. I can't wait to see how much trouble that game gets into. Then they showed off Far Cry 5. Of course, we got the Far Cry 5 gameplay reveal and the Amazing Grace trailer. The Amazing Grace trailer was absolutely awesome, showing the main villain, seeing Amazing Grace with a gun in his hand was pretty awesome. Still waiting, just to get the character, the full character reveals of the Far Cry 5. I want to see what this family's like. I want to see, what their voices are like, what their message is, or, why they're doing this. I want just a trailer focused around the villains instead of the hero. In terms of what we got in terms of gameplay, in terms of Far Cry 5, a bit disappointed. There was no extended demo. It was very short, very brief, very actiony as well. Of course, that's what Far Cry is all about, very actiony. So, I can't really complain because I got gameplay, but at the same time, I wanted the Far Cry 4, reveal in terms of Far Cry 5, where it's an extended gameplay showing off some new mechanics we have. But this gameplay also had a big focus on, who you're going to be playing with in this. It was guns for hire, things for hire, friends for hire, all that stuff, definitely a big focus on, you're not going to be playing this game alone, you're going to have companions with you, which is good and bad at the same time, because I've, played all the Far Cry games, Far Cry 3, Far Cry 4, Far Cry Blood Dragon, and I haven't, had many companions with me throughout that, Far Cry Primal as well. But I did enjoy the animal aspect in Far Cry Primal, but I thought that was just to, bridge the gap between we're not having guns in this game. But the dog seems to be pretty interesting, has some good mechanics with it, bringing you someone's gun, that can be good in a tight niche. But to me, I definitely wanted a longer reveal for Far Cry 5. But we got what we got, and that's what it's going to be. Moving on to other Ubisoft games that they showed off. They showed off the Destiny-ish like game. I'm blanking on the name of it, but it was the spaceship game, the Toys to Life game. Seems interesting. It seems to have a big Switch profile, but is on all platforms for Xbox and PS4. Once it was Toys to Life, I immediately lost interest in it completely. Who knows if it's online or if it's just single player, but it looked interesting. Definitely seemed to have a lot of Destiny vibes coming from it. And then they showed off Beyond Good and Evil 2. The trailer for this was absolutely awesome. I thought it was an excellent trailer. Definitely one of my more favorite trailers of the entire press conference and E3 as a whole. I thought that trailer was really good, really well paced in terms of slow, mysteriousness, and then to action, and then going back to slow. I thought it was really well done. The music was good. The characters were on point. Haven't played Beyond Good and Evil. I know this is a prequel to the first Beyond Good and Evil, which is good. Obviously, they want more people playing it. But, however, at the end of it, they were like, let you help us make the game in terms of, development-wise. So, to me, when is this game going to come out? Why didn't they have any actual gameplay to show us? It just definitely seems like something that definitely is far out. This game is going to be on the next generation of consoles. I bet it's not even going to be. It's definitely going to come out on this generation, but to me, it definitely seems like this game is very far out and is not coming to your consoles anytime soon. But overall, very good trailer. Very good to see the game is still alive and such. A lot of people are very happy about that. But to me, it was just a good trailer, very interesting, and nothing, like, oh my god, Beyond Good and Evil is back for me. But overall, I thought Ubisoft had a good press conference. They didn't have any, big wow moments in the game. Big wow moments for the press conference. To a lot of people, that probably was Beyond Good and Evil, but to me, that wasn't. I was surprised to see no Tom Clancy's anything in this press conference. For the past 5 years, we've been getting Rainbow Six and The Division and Ghost Recon, and we've been seeing those games all the time. But to me, they had no presence, which was interesting. I wanted to see a Splinter Cell game be announced, but no Splinter Cell. Definitely going to be a thing for next year or in between next year and now. So no Splinter Cell. Disappointed about that. They did show off some Steep stuff. Who cares? That's what I'm going to say about that. Moving on to Sony. This was the last press conference besides Nintendo, but I don't really care about Nintendo. So I'm just going to be talking about the big ones here. Sony obviously had Spider-Man. Spider-Man gameplay was awesome, very acrobatic, very flowy in terms of gameplay. Definitely seems to be very Batman Arkham Knight inspired, but doing it in their own, flowy, different, enthusiastic way. Definitely seems to be a very awesome game. Definitely seems to be something that I'm going to be buying a PS4 for, that I definitely want to play that game, and the only way to play it is, of course, buy a PlayStation. So to me, once that game comes out in early 2018, I'll be getting around to owning a PlayStation 4 to own Spider-Man, because it looks awesome. In terms of the game overall, it looks very polished, very fun, brings Spider-Man to life. I thought they had a good, character reveal as well, with Spider-Man, as he's fighting, he's saying his quips and stuff, and then, it immediately goes into a big scaled up action moment where the crane is falling and Spider-Man's got to save it using all of his abilities and gadgets and stuff. So to me, Spider-Man looks great. Can't wait to see more of it. Can't wait to see, the open world, what there is to do around it. The storyline, who's the main villain and such, but it seemed great. It seemed awesome. I can't wait to see more of Spider-Man. Can't say a bad thing about it. More things I want to talk about is, of course, God of War. God of War, boy! I love the way the new God of War stuff is being taken off. I think overall the new, Nordic mythology instead of Greek mythology definitely seems to be pretty awesome for this. Have not played any of the mainline God of Wars. I've had a very brief experience with God of War, but I do like God of War. I do like the over-the-top action it is and magic influence it has. But in terms of this God of War, it seems to be awesome. It seems to have more of a, dynamic relationship between you and your son. Boy! I can't wait to see how that relationship evolves. And the trailer talks about him talking about how on our travels we're going to be attacked by everyone, so you need to, not be a boy anymore and just straight up, become a murdering machine, and, you have to remove yourself from, these aren't people, these are our enemies, and we need to take them down. The trailer also had some good comedic moments. We know with the guy, who was like, that was pretty awesome, you taking down all those guys, and he throws his axe, and he's like, and it was definitely something to be, interested about. Is this game going to have more comedic moments? God of War definitely is not a comedic game, but in this trailer, it had at least the one comedic moment, and it definitely seems to have more of a, character-focused, vibe to it. Of course, with Kratos and his son, and then, there was the girl that he's talking to, who knows who that is, but, they were talking about Kratos' past, obviously, him killing his family in the mainline God of War games, and then obviously killing all of Greek mythology, basically. But overall, the game looks great. The scale and scope of it definitely is not lost with the serpent of it was like the earth serpent or whatever, like the water earth serpent. That was awesome. I thought that was a great way to end the trailer. Of course, they're going throughout the entire trailer showing you the different people you're going to be facing, what the combat's going to be like, but ending the trailer with the giant serpent and how he wants to help instead of, fight. Definitely was an awesome moment. Definitely was like, wow, this game has a great sense of scale and scope. I love how, Kratos is ready just to fight. He gets his axe and he's like ready to fight. And he's like, what's he saying? He's like, he wants to help. And, to me, that's something that Kratos hasn't experienced through a lot of his games is people helping him. He's always, fighting and such. But the serpent looked great. I can't wait to see, more of these gigantic Nordic beasts being shown off. But overall, looks awesome. Can't wait to play it. Early 2018, I believe, is what they said for that. So very excited for that game. Moving on, Days Gone looks great. I've already talked about that in previous videos, of course. I thought it had a great, bloody tactical gameplay in terms of this, where it was, you're fighting off animals in this, the wolves and the bear, and then you're fighting humans in a more brutal way, obviously when he plunges his knife into that guy and then chokes him out with a rope. Definitely something that we haven't seen from Days Gone, in terms of what we've seen so far. And then there was the gameplay of him, going through all the dead bodies of, people hanging, and then they had the stealth gameplay where it was like, I don't have to kill everyone, I just have to take out a couple guys, and then, draw the attention of the rest, move on to the rest of, what we're trying to show off here. But Days Gone definitely looks interesting. They show off more tactical gameplay. They showed off, zombies as a weapon, which seemed to be pretty awesome. Some things that really just caught my attention during the trailer is, when he's looking over the edge and there's a big horde of zombies attacking a guy who's trying to fend them off, and it's like he doesn't even care, no one's worried. So to me, it seems like in this world, there's big hordes of zombies everywhere, but you don't have to always be afraid of them, and even if you do, you can take out a horde like they showed off during last E3 where it was, destroying the entire horde. But using the horde to your advantage like they did in this trailer, definitely was a interesting and new look at Days Gone. Finally, the last thing I liked about it is how, when your main character sees the big horde of, zombies eating on something, their attention isn't immediately on you. They're not like new meat. They're focused, they're eating. They're not worried about, the human who's right behind them. Of course, he did have to stealthily go around them. But to me, it was like, okay, these zombies aren't going to be constantly attacking us. They're going to be docile at moments. But then, once they have a big explosion behind them, now they're going to be attacking. And then you can use them as a weapon, of course. Days Gone looks great, of course. I definitely was talking about this in my previous video, but definitely seems to have a 3 pillars of enemies where it's humans, wildlife, and zombies. So definitely anticipated to see more about that game. Then Call of Duty. Call of Duty World War II looks great. Call of Duty What's Old is New. I can't wait to play Call of Duty World War II. A little bit disappointed we didn't get multiplayer reveal or an extended gameplay demo of a mission in Call of Duty World War II. But what we got from Call of Duty World War II in this press conference was great. I loved the way the trailer was shot, different action moments, different, snippets of gameplay with different weapons, the tower defense with, MG42s and such, and then clearing trenches with flamethrowers. Definitely very good, very, very good to see Call of Duty go back to World War II. Very happy to hear old sounds, coming back to life. M1 Grand, when you fire your last shot, ting, you hear that. So very excited to see multiplayer for Call of Duty, and definitely excited to see the campaign. I'm definitely waiting to see more of in terms of campaign, a more character driven or just an extended. This is a mission portion of the game in Call of Duty World War II. But to me, the game looks great. Detroit Become Human. Talk about a very ambitious game. Of course, I've already talked about this game in my previous videos and such, but Detroit Become Human looks great. In terms of, what's going on with the story, I still have no idea. It's a Android revolution now, as opposed to the other, trailers. We've seen 3 different main characters now. We've seen the cop android, the girl android, blanking on her name, and then Marcus, who was the focus of this E3. He definitely seems to be like the figurehead for the revolution for the androids. He figures out that, I'm stronger than these humans. I'm smarter than them, so why am I being a slave to them? Let's unite and start a revolution. In terms of gameplay, it seems to be pretty awesome, where it's like, the police are coming, do we hide, do we run, do we stand and fight, do we do this? Is our revolution going to be peaceful, or is it going to be violent? Definitely it seems to be like, no player's experience is going to be the same, and definitely seems to be very interesting in terms of how we're going to be playing it, and of course the story seems to be pretty awesome, so in terms of that game, definitely seems to be very interesting and awesome. So those are, the bigger games that they showed off for E3. Sony definitely did show off a lot of VR games, which was interesting to see. Skyrim VR was one of them as well. Definitely bury Skyrim. Bethesda should just stop promoting that game, honestly. But they did show off a lot of VR games, which is good to show that they have continued support. I did notice they did not say, we're very proud to announce that PlayStation VR has sold X amount of units, so who knows how well it's selling. But it was nice to see a lot of VR in terms of from Bethesda and a lot of VR from Sony as well, saying, hey, we're going to continue to support this, because it seems like once VR came out, no one talked about it. Then they showed off Uncharted. Lost Legacy, of course, it's more Uncharted, looks great with Chloe. Not really much to be said there. It's an Uncharted game, it's going to be great, it's by Naughty Dog, and it looks awesome. The way they started the press conference with, the music was great. Game looks great. Like I said, more Uncharted. Like you know what we're going to be getting, and then some. So not much to be taken away from that, personally. And then they showed off Horizon Zero Dawn DLC. Looks great. Horizon Zero Dawn looks great. Can't wait to play it once I get a PS4 for Spider-Man and such. And a lot of these, Sony exclusives, but to me, more Horizon Zero Dawn. People love that game. People like it. It's coming out this year, which is a big important thing. That that this isn't a DLC that's going to be up in the air. They said coming 2017, which is great for people who own and love Horizon Zero Dawn. Now on to the bad. Obviously, this year's E3 to me was a bit disappointing. It seems like with every single press conference that happened, there was no massive, oh my goodness, this game looks awesome. It's a new IP. It's new X, Y, and Z. Even with Beyond Good and Evil from Ubisoft, that game has been floating around, all the time. Is Beyond Good and Evil going to come out? And, once it is shown off, it's like, oh, it's a thing. But it wasn't, to me, there was no massive game that everyone's, like, there's no one single game that everyone's going to be talking about this E3. It was very much, oh, all the games are great, the press conferences have been good, but there's no standout moment from this year's E3. There is no, Sony, saying, this is how we share our games, or there is no Sony showing off Days Gone, or there is no Last of Us 2 gameplay, there is no, Halo 5, or, there's no big game that is the focus of, no game stole E3 this year. There is no game that was like, this game looks absolutely awesome, and everyone thinks that, everyone's going to be talking about that. They showed off a lot of stuff in terms of just all the press conferences. Ubisoft showed off, their entire press conference reveal. They showed off what the press conference was going to be like. In terms of EA, we knew what we were going to get from them. From Microsoft, they had a lot of stuff, but nothing, in terms of like, this game looks absolutely awesome, and then this is going to be the game that's going to be charting the next, market-driven stuff coming up for the, holiday 2017. And then with Sony, they had a lot of great stuff to show for, a lot of great exclusives, but again, nothing that they revealed that we didn't know about, nothing that we weren't expecting in terms of, everything at all. Ubisoft had a great press conference. I thought they showed off a lot of great games. Obviously, having Shigeru Miyamoto on stage was great, but again, all that stuff was leaked before they showed off, what they're going to be doing. Skull and Bones looks good, but again, it's, just Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. South Park looks great, but, we already knew about that. Beyond Good and Evil, again, as well as, it's great to hear that it's still live. It's been heavily rumored, and, there's been a lot of, concept art leaking and stuff, so to me, that wasn't what, they're doing a second one of these games. Bethesda obviously didn't have a lot to show. Wolfenstein looked great, but we already knew about that game. Quake, didn't even talk about that, but we knew about that. Dishonored, of course, they had to show off Dishonored DLC. Bethesda VR, they talked about that last year, and now they're officially showing it off this time around. Microsoft, of course, showed off a lot of games, but no big flagship titles, no exclusives, no massive exclusives from their first parties, like a 343 game or a big flagship title that they wanted to show off. Nothing from there. EA, Battlefront, we were expecting. A Way Out was a good surprise, probably the biggest good surprise of the entire E3. Actually, looks great. Star Wars, bit of disappointment. Battlefield, a bit of a disappointment. So to me, this year overall, E3 2017, just wasn't as massive as it was last year or the year before, where we got new games, new IPs, and new X, Y, and Z, and games that definitely blew us away. And last year, it was all about Horizon Zero Dawn and how great that game looked, and Days Gone, and then Xbox had. I'm trying to think of what Xbox had. They had a lot of stuff. The Xbox just had games. We Happy Few was one of the bigger games that they showed off that everyone was talking about. But to me, there was no big, game that everyone's gonna be talking about, and that to me is a bit disappointing. And the press conferences definitely all seem to be alike, where they just want to show off games, which is of course what E3 is for. But they didn't show off extended, long gameplay demos of games, and when they did, they had YouTube commentary over it, which was a bit annoying. So to me, there was no, that gameplay demo looks awesome. It was, just a edited down trailer showing off, this is what it is, this is what we're showing off. So there was no massive game or games to be shown off. Even with the big console reveal from Xbox, it was, we've heard about this before, we know what it is, we know the specs of it before, and we know what we're going to be getting, and we were just waiting on the price point, which again was disappointing. If Xbox was like, this is going to be $300, that would have taken the show. But in terms of just E3 overall, it was very mediocre. It's good, but mediocre in terms of E3s in the past that we've been getting in terms of just content and, new stuff we're going to be getting. And then in terms of just I can tell that this year's E3 wasn't as, as excited as everyone else. In terms of just for me and how I did with E3 this year in terms of YouTube analytics, this definitely was my worst E3. I've done 2014, 2015, I've done 2015, 2016, and 2017 E3s, and this year I've definitely gotten the least amount of views in terms of my videos and such. Maybe it was just me not picking the right games to talk about, but in terms of stuff I was putting out for E3, I didn't seem to have any less content in terms of, what there is, but to me, it definitely seems like everyone as a whole, including from YouTube stuff I've been watching, there was no standout. It's all just games we've heard about, or games we've known about, or games that, are up in the air. Which again is good that we get to see games that we're excited about coming for 2018 really. Again, there wasn't a lot of games that they talked about, coming, this fall or coming 2 weeks from now. It was a lot of 2018. This E3 wasn't focused on this year, it was focused on next year, which to me is a bit disappointing, of course, and just in terms of everything from this E3, like I said, there was no extended gameplay demos, there was no big game, there was no big standout moment. It was very much just games, and games that we've already heard of. So to me, E3 was a bit of a not disappointing. It was just mediocre, and and even the things I was looking forward to, Star Wars Battlefront, I was looking forward to seeing the stuff for that, and I wasn't disappointed with it till we got the, YouTube commentary. And then Assassin's Creed, showing off that was very good. Of course, it's just more Assassin's Creed, not showing off anything that's going to be too far out there. Bethesda didn't even show off the new IP. They've opened up, I think, 2 new studios. They've talked about how they have new IPs. They didn't even show off that. That could have taken all of E3 as, a new Bethesda IP, a new X, Y, and Z from Bethesda. So to me, it definitely seemed like Bethesda had an opportunity to, be the talk of the show, and they weren't. Obviously, Wolfenstein looks great. Can't wait to play that. Can't wait to see more of that. But, we've already known about Wolfenstein and such, from Ubisoft. Skull and Bones looks awesome, but again, it is Assassin's Creed. Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, so it's nothing new that we've seen. It's not a new game that we've seen. We've already seen what this game looks like from previous games. Far Cry 5, even, I thought the gameplay demo was disappointing. There was no extended gameplay demo. There was no, here's what the villain's going to be like. From Far Cry 4, from its E3, they showed off the villain and, what it was going to be like. They had the Pagan Min reveal at Far Cry, at, E3 last year. And they had no Aisha Tyler this year. Speaking of which of that, it was just, let's bring out the studio heads. And, they didn't have Aisha Tyler bringing them along with the ride, which was a bit disappointing because now when I think of Ubisoft and E3, I think of Aisha Tyler hosting it. Hopefully she's not gone. I want to see her again. I think she's great hosting the stuff. But to me, Ubisoft didn't really show off anything that was unique and special. It was very much just, here's what we got, here's what's coming. From Sony, a lot of games that, they've shown off previously before. Nothing, brand new besides a bunch of VR games, but, VR is definitely a niche audience. And them just showing off games that they've been promoting for the past, 2 years a year. So, nothing stand out from there. And then in terms of just, E3 as a whole, it just wasn't unique at all. I'm more excited to see what, my favorite YouTuber is and stuff once they get all the what they're talking about, what's something that fell through the cracks that got announced, but wasn't announced at a press conference. I'm waiting to see what the indie stuff was. I know PC Gaming had a press conference where they showed off Griftlands. That game looks interesting. It's by Cleve Entertainment. People did Don't Starve. Love that game. Can't wait to see more from Griftlands. But to me, not seeing anything from Red Dead Redemption, not seeing anything from the Cyberpunk 2040, whatever Cyberpunk's name is, not seeing, these big titles that have been mysteries the entire time, not seeing those games being shown off at E3 was a disappointment. And again, there was no massive reveal from any of these studios or any of these console holders. So to me, overall, there was nothing that I'm going to be taking away where it was like, wow, that was great. But to me, it's good. It's good to see all these games being shown off. But again, nothing overall that was hugely important to take notice of. Nothing stole the show. So, I guess that concludes episode 1 of the Joel Greene podcast, E3 as a whole, E3 2017. Like I said, going to be trying to be doing these once a week. This one was roughly an hour long. Don't expect it to be all that long. Obviously, I had a lot of content from E3, and that's why I wanted to start off with this. But E3 2017 concluded. That's what I think of it. Obviously, a bit of disappointment, but that's the Joel Greene podcast. This is what you can expect. It's just me talking, giving my opinion on stuff, stuff that I can't do, reaction videos to, or, why I'm excited about, just talking overall about what I thought about the press conferences and such. So, there you go. There's the Joel Greene podcast. Come back for more. Goodbye.